Welcome back, gaming nerds. Thank you for clicking on this episode of Nerd Space. Today, we have a really big topic to talk about because it's official. I've been talking about all the leaks and rumors for the past 2 weeks. We now know that we are getting that PlayStation Showcase, and it's scheduled for May 24th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's next week. It's just about a week away at the time of me filming this. By the time I probably post this video, it'll be Thursday. But yeah, so there's a lot to talk about because this is supposed to be probably the biggest PlayStation showcase we've ever seen. I know that's pretty high expectation, but I think that's fair to say because this PlayStation event is supposed to be over an hour long. And the last time we got a PlayStation showcase was back in 2021. It was September of 2021. And we had some pretty big announcements during that PlayStation showcase. That includes Spider-Man 2, as well as Wolverine, and even a Knights of the Old Republic remake. That's how big the announcements were at the last showcase. And this one just seems like it's going to be even bigger because all the leaks and sources have been talking about how this is going to be the introduction, the little tease of phase 2 of the PlayStation 5. And at this point, Sony has even confirmed and came out and said that this PlayStation Showcase is teasing everything coming to the PlayStation 5 as well as the PlayStation VR 2. So there's supposed to be a lot of announcements, and with over an hour long showcase, you know there has to be a lot to talk about. And that's what today's video is going to focus on, as we're going to talk about all the big rumors and leaks, the reliable ones of course, heading into the showcase. And I want to get your opinions on which of these you think are actually going to happen, how reliable are a lot of these. And then at the end of the video, I would like to know which ones do you want to get announced that probably doesn't have a chance. It's more like a pipe dream for you guys. But I'm Ruben with Nerd Space, and let's talk about the upcoming PlayStation Showcase. Let's get it. Okay, we're going to start with probably the more boring news in my opinion. And that's going to be the hardware. So if you guys want to skip ahead, feel free to. You have the chapter timeline in the description, so you can go ahead and jump to whatever topic you want to learn a little bit more about. Feel free to do so. But for those true hardcore fans, I really appreciate you guys watching this video all the way out. So I appreciate you. But let's just jump straight into it. So like I said, we're going to start with the hardware. We're going to take a look at probably one of the biggest teases and leaks and rumors that we've been getting a lot of information on, especially over this past year. And that's going to be the PlayStation 5 Pro. So before we talk about this, we have to think about the PlayStation 4. So when the PlayStation 4 was released, 3 years after its release, that's when we got the PlayStation 4 Pro. So if we take a look at the PlayStation 5, it kind of makes sense. If they were going to stick to the same timeline as the PlayStation 4, it does kind of make sense that we would get the PlayStation 5 Pro probably at the end of this year. Well, sources are saying that apparently there is a PlayStation 5 Pro in the works, and it's looking to release 2024 Christmas time. Now, I know that might be crazy to think about because it seems like the PlayStation 5 really just came out. But again, like I just mentioned, PlayStation 4 Pro came out about 3 years after the PlayStation 4. So it does kind of line up perfectly with the PlayStation 5. And actually, if it releases next year around Christmas time, it's actually going to be out for 4 years instead of 3 years. As far as what the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to do differently than the PlayStation 5, we don't really know too much. We don't know if it's going to be a slimmer, sleeker model, although it probably will be. And a lot of people seem to think that the resolution is going to go up to 8K. I think that might be out of question since the 8K TVs are still kind of hard to come by for a lot of people. More than likely, I probably see the 4K and ray tracing and then a higher refresh rate just getting better for the most part. I don't really see them jumping up to the 8K just yet. Probably the PlayStation 6 is when we'll officially start seeing that 8K resolution. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you guys think about the PlayStation 5 Pro. Do you think it's too soon for it, since we spent probably the first year and a half not having enough stock for the PlayStation 5, and now they're going to release the PlayStation 5 Pro? I don't know. I'd love to hear your opinions, but me knowing myself, I'll probably end up picking it up because I'm a huge Sony fanboy. One thing Sony does is bring us a lot of titles and a lot of exclusives. No offense, Xbox. The other hardware that we're going to talk about is actually the portable PlayStation console. So this has been rumored and talked about for a long time as well, and it seems like those rumors and leaks have kind of got a lot bigger lately, and not in a good way. So at first, for a while now, it's been talked that this next portable PlayStation console was going to be a Vita sequel, and that was going under the working title, the code name Q-Lite. And a lot of people were really excited, myself included, that we were finally going to get a portable PlayStation console, just like the Vita and the PSP back in the day. I'm someone who loved playing PlayStation on the go. I thought it was the best decision PlayStation Sony has ever made, and I really truly enjoyed the PSP and the PS Vita. And when I heard this announcement, I was really excited, guys. I was thrilled, and I could not wait to see this announced at the PlayStation Showcase, because it seems like that's when it is going to get announced. It seems like that's when we're going to get that. But then as we got closer to the showcase, things kind of went downhill, as it looks like it's more of a remote play console. And what that means is that, for one, you're going to have a PlayStation 5, and two, you're going to have internet access, which basically means it's kind of just like playing on your phone right next to your PlayStation 5. That's what it really is going to feel like. And that drives me insane, because to me, I don't see the market for that at all. That makes no sense to me. And I get that Sony has been pushing the whole remote play for a while now, but this decision makes no sense. To me, I think Sony should be working on a competitor for Nintendo's Switch. If they actually came up with a portable PlayStation system, they can make the big bucks. I mean, yes, I get it, the Vita and the PSP weren't as popular back then. That's why they were discontinued with games. But now you have people all about the handheld. They love to be able to play their favorite games on the go. And that's why people love the Switch, in my opinion. That you could play this in front of your TV on the big screen, or you can play it on the plane on your way to visiting family. So it's crazy to think that they are missing the opportunity here for doing a PSP, PS Vita sequel. But unfortunately, that does seem to be what the case is. So probably at the PlayStation Showcase, we're going to see an announcement for the portable PlayStation console, which, like I said, is marketed as Q-Lite, and it's going to be a remote play system, not a sequel to the Vita, not a cloud streaming device, just a remote play for the PlayStation 5. Okay, so next group of topics we're going to talk about has to deal with a lot of the release dates and updates for their upcoming titles that we already know about. So first off, let's talk about the release dates that I think are going to get announced at this upcoming PlayStation Showcase. First off, I mentioned earlier how Spider-Man 2 was shown off for the first time at 2021 September PlayStation Showcase. That was the last showcase we got. So it does make perfect sense for Spider-Man 2 to get shown off again at this PlayStation Showcase, especially if we look at the rumors and leaks that we've already been looking at. Specifically, I had mentioned a while back that the voice actor for Venom in this game had mentioned that it looks like the marketing is going to start around the August timeframe, and that we will probably see this game get released in September. If we're going based off of that timeline, then it does kind of make sense for us to get another trailer for Spider-Man 2, as well as an official release date for this game, because we still don't have a release date, and it's supposed to come out in September based on all the rumors. And even if those rumors weren't true, Sony has been pushing the idea that this game is releasing this year. So I feel like with such a big title like this, they really need to start getting on the ball about marketing this game. There are two more games I think we're going to get an official release date, because I think both of these games are in fact coming out this year. So the next one we're going to take a look at is Silent Hill 2 Remake. So we had a teaser for that a little while back already, and all we've seen so far is that one teaser trailer. We haven't seen any gameplay, and it seems like that this game is still set to release later this year in fall, potentially even in winter, but it's still set to release in 2023. And actually, the CEO of Bloober actually let it slip that he believes that this game is pretty much ready to go, that's all set, that they're just waiting on Konami's and Sony's go-ahead to officially announce this title's release date. So with that in mind, it seems like Silent Hill 2 should come out this year, and if they can get it around that holiday timeline, or even the Halloween timeline, makes sense to me, like in the October, maybe early November, then I can see that happening. So I really do think at the showcase, since this game's ready to go, we're gonna see another trailer, and we're gonna see the official release date, which is probably gonna be at the end of this year. Worst case scenario, we see at the beginning of next year, because I do think this title's ready to go. And we're gonna talk about Konami again later in this video, but between the deal that seems to be made between Sony and Konami, they have a bright future ahead of them. But yeah, so I do expect to see a Silent Hill 2 update and release date, as well as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That game hasn't really been shown off that much and talked about a lot, mainly because they don't want to overshadow Final Fantasy 16, because that game releases next month in June. So I get why the marketing for it hasn't really been there that much, because they wanted to put the full attention on Final Fantasy 16. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure we'll get a Final Fantasy 16 launch trailer, but I do think we're going to get an official release date for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because I do think this game is going to be ready by this year as well. I just think they've been holding off on the release date until they are closer to the Final Fantasy 16th release. So I expect to see a release date for that. I think that's also going to be around like maybe Christmas time this year. Worst case scenario, that gets pushed back into next year. Honestly, it probably makes more sense for it to get pushed back to next year since we're already getting Final Fantasy 16 this year. But hey, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, so if you want to bring me more Final Fantasy content, keep it coming. Now all you gotta do is throw me in some Kingdom Hearts 4, and I think this showcase is gonna definitely make me really, really happy. Which, don't get me wrong, that's probably not gonna happen. So don't get your hopes up, Kingdom Hearts fans. Now that's pretty much all I think we're gonna get in terms of release dates for the really big AAA titles that we've been talking about. But I kind of want to talk about some other AAA titles that Sony has in the works lately, including Wolverine. So Wolverine, I don't think we're going to get an official release date. I think it's too close to Spider-Man 2's release date that they're going to want to sit on that a little bit longer. Now, I do think we might get an extended trailer for this game, but I think we can probably expect not to get a release date of this game just yet. And that goes the same for two other games that Sony's looking forward to. Knights of the Old Republic is probably one of the games I'm looking forward to most. I don't think we're going to get a release date on that as well, and that includes Death Stranding 2, which seems like it's a lot farther along than what it actually is, but in my opinion, I don't think we're getting a release date for that game as well. So I think those three games we're going to see extended trailers on, maybe, but for the most part, I would probably just expect maybe an extended trailer or nothing at all on these three titles. Okay, so with all of these smaller leaks and rumors out of the way, let's talk about the big thing that we want to talk about. We want to talk about what new game announcements could we get at this showcase. Well, let's start with MK1. So I know technically this game has already been announced. So I know this doesn't really qualify as a new game, especially since first this game was announced during a Warner Brothers investor call, and then we got a teaser trailer with the TikTok Clock of Doom, and finally, at the time of me recording this, the same day of me recording this video, we got an update where we're actually getting a trailer tomorrow, which at the time of me posting this video will probably be the same day, but I want to focus a little bit on this because there's a lot of rumors and leaks surrounding this game. So first off, it seems like the trailer that is releasing tomorrow is going to be a full CG trailer. We're not going to see any gameplay or anything like that, which makes me think it's just going to be a small little teaser, and then might have like at the end of the trailer, maybe, hey, see more at the PlayStation Showcase. I've seen titles do that before. But then at the showcase, that's when I think we're going to get a lot of juicy information for this game. First off, I think we're going to get the official title announcement during this teaser trailer, but then at the PlayStation Showcase, we're going to see the first bit of gameplay footage. That's where we'll see the combat and all that straight up filmed on a PlayStation 5, of course. And that's where we're going to see a lot more of the game. On top of that, there's already been theories and leaks about the DLC characters. I think we might get teased one character. I don't know if we'll get announced multiple DLC characters. I'll just go over the rumored characters for the DLC already, and a lot of them make sense. So first off, you have Homelander from The Boys. I've talked about this on a previous video. Same thing for Peacemaker from the DC universe. So two characters that are really popular right now thanks to Amazon and Warner Brothers DC. John Cena's already an extremely popular actor, so getting his face in the Mortal Kombat game makes perfect sense. But then one of the newest leaks that popped up and seems very reliable, even though it doesn't make too much sense to me, is that apparently we might get Conan the Barbarian. And we don't know the details if this is going to be like the comic book accurate version or if this is going to be Arnold's version. But either way, there's a possibility that we could see Conan the Barbarian as a DLC character. In my opinion, we're probably going to only see one of these DLC characters announced during the MK section of the PlayStation Showcase. My money is probably on Homelander. It matches up with the reveal of Carl Urban as Johnny Cage in the movie, so they definitely make sense to be announced kind of close together. But what I want to talk to you guys about specifically with this topic, I want to know, what DLC characters do you guys want to see in this game? I mean, MK's been really great about bringing in some really unique characters from different universes into their DLC package for the MK games, and I'd love to know what you guys are thinking. Personally, I would like to see Pennywise, since we're getting the Pennywise TV series prequel from Warner Brothers, so it does make sense to see Pennywise in this game. But I'd love to know in the comments what you guys think. Who do you want to see in MK as a DLC character? As far as the release date, I'm pretty sure that's getting announced at the PlayStation Showcase. I do not think it's getting announced in the trailer. It just makes more sense for something like this to be announced at a bigger event, and the PlayStation Showcase is a really big event, and it makes perfect sense for them to announce the release date at the showcase, not the CG trailer that they're releasing. But we'll see soon, I guess, because the trailer's coming out very soon. All right, and the next game announcement I want to talk about is Resident Evil, and it's not going to be about what you guys probably think I'm going to talk about, because I know a lot of sources and reliable leaks out there have been talking about Resident Evil 9. There's been a lot of leaks about that, about what the game's gonna be titled. It's supposed to be a title of Resident Evil 9 Apocalypse, and it's supposed to feature Chris, Jill, and Claire in this title, which is all really cool. I don't think they're true, but it is a really cool concept, and I like the story elements that they're following with this title. But I don't think this is the announcement that we're going to get at the PlayStation Showcase. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think we're gonna get some Resident Evil news at the showcase, because Sony and Capcom has had a really good relationship and history for showcasing Resident Evil titles at Sony's events. Perfect example I can think of, Resident Evil 2 Remake was announced at E3's Sony event, and that was huge. So that's why, in my opinion, it makes more sense for a Resident Evil announcement to come at a PlayStation event. So I can definitely see Resident Evil news coming at this event. But I think it's actually going to focus on Resident Evil 4, since the release of the game just occurred and it's doing really, really well, and they're going to want to continue that trend. And I think, to me, what makes the most sense is focusing on something that's going to release this year, and that would probably be the DLC for Resident Evil 4. Specifically, I'm talking about Separate Ways, which is basically the Ada campaign of Resident Evil 4. So if you never played the original Resident Evil 4, Separate Ways is the DLC where you actually play as Ada throughout the events of Resident Evil 4 from her point of view. And it's a really, really cool new take on the Resident Evil 4 story. I think we're almost definitely getting that DLC this year. There's been a lot of talks about that DLC already being in the works. We just don't know when it's gonna officially come out. And I think we're probably getting that around October, because around October last year is when we got the DLC package for Resident Evil 8. So that's what I think. I think at this event we're gonna see an update on the DLC Separate Ways, and we're gonna get a release date for it. That's probably the announcement we're going to get. In my opinion, I still think we're getting a Resident Evil 9 announcement, just not until later this year. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think we're gonna get any Resident Evil news? And if so, what kind of news are you expecting at the showcase? Let me know. Okay, and the next title that we're gonna talk about actually officially doesn't have a name, although it does have a trademark name. Sony made a really, really big and surprising purchase of Bungie. And Bungie were the original creators of the Halo franchise. And then they ended up developing Destiny, which Destiny has been extremely popular, and Destiny 2 has been through the roof with post-launch DLC packages. The game's been really, really popular. But a little while back, we also saw that Bungie actually trademarked a new IP title under the name Matter. So we believe that we might be getting a game called Matter from Bungie. Now the question is, do we see this at the PlayStation Showcase? And in my opinion, I don't think so. I don't think this game is supposed to release until 2025, and to me, it seems like it's a little bit early to be talking about that title, especially since there's already so much to talk about at the showcase. It just, in my opinion, doesn't make sense to talk about this one yet. That being said, all the rumors are pretty much saying that this is supposed to be a third-person action game, and more than likely, it's probably going to be live service, since when Sony purchased Bungie, they said that they were really, really interested in Bungie's performance with Destiny and their live service expertise. And I know that's not really what we want to hear, but hey, it is what it is. More than likely, I feel like this next Bungie project, this next Bungie IP is going to be a live service game. But yeah, that's pretty much all we know about it. It's trademarked under Matter as of right now. We know they're working on a new IP, but in my opinion, I don't think we're getting this at this showcase. But I could be wrong, who knows? Maybe we get a small little teaser. Okay, so this next one I'm gonna talk about, mainly just because I know people are gonna be attacking that comment section, attacking me if I don't bring this up, but I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't think this is happening either. But that's going to be a Bloodborne remake. Now, if you haven't been following the news for the most part, it seems like that FromSoft has no intention to remake or remaster the Bloodborne game. They've completely denied any reports of remastering it. And that's really what people want. They don't even need a remake. They really just need it to be remastered to where it can work at like 60 FPS. But now with the huge success of Elden Ring, it does kind of make sense for Sony to be like, it might be a good idea to take a look at Bloodborne, a game that a lot of people have been talking about and wanting a remake from, and actually get a studio involved on making that remake. And honestly, the one studio that makes the most sense because of their Demon Souls remake would probably be Bluepoint. And we haven't heard anything from Bluepoint since Demon Souls. That was the last game they developed. And Demon Souls was a really, really good game. And I think after seeing the success of Elden Ring, it does kind of make sense for Sony to grab Bluepoint and say, hey, you need to work on a Bloodborne remake and get that out ASAP. I can definitely see it because honestly, like I said, Elden Ring proved that, games like this, these FromSoft games could make a huge load of money. Now, the unfortunate side of things is that we're probably not going to see FromSoft do this. They're already working on the DLC right now for Elden Ring, and they're pretty much going to be busy for a while with any other projects that they might already have. So I doubt we're going to see a FromSoft produce Bloodborne remake, but I think Bluepoint definitely makes a good contender for a replacement for FromSoft. So again, this is probably extremely unlikely, especially since FromSoft already said that they don't know anything about a remaster or a remake being in the works. But hey, one can hope, one can dream. I'm putting this on there because there have been a few leaks and rumors out there that this is indeed the case. And Bluepoint has been in talks about having a deal with Sony about working on a new project. Speaking of Demon Souls, Dark Souls type games, we're going to take a look at Ghost of Tsushima, as looks like we can probably potentially get the sequel announced at the showcase. Now, I do think this actually might happen, even though it might be more of a teaser than an announcement or a trailer. But I do think this might happen mainly, well, for a couple of reasons. First off, Sucker Punch has been teasing this for a while now. While they haven't announced anything, they've teased it in the original game, and they've already announced the fact that they are making a movie. It does make sense for Ghost of Tsushima to get a sequel announced fairly soon. I mean, a lot of video games right now are being extremely smart when it comes to their movie and game franchises. They are learning to kind of combine these two and try to help them tease each other. Perfect example would be to look at the Mario movie. Look how well that Mario movie really did, and then look at the sales that came around the time of that Mario movie. The sales of the Mario games actually really went through the roof. They actually increased during the Mario movie's release. And it kind of shows that whenever you release a new movie that is based off of a video game, and you have like maybe video games of that same title out around the same time, that they're going to complement each other in sales. It does make a lot of sense when you think about the marketing for both of them. So personally, I think the fact that Ghost of Tsushima is getting a movie, it makes sense to me a lot for them to also announce a Ghost of Tsushima sequel. So I do think Sucker Punch is going to announce at Sony's event that we are going to see Ghost of Tsushima 2. I think this is probably almost a definite in my opinion. I don't think we're going to get a release date. I don't think we're going to get anything crazy, no gameplay or anything like that, but I think we're going to get teased with a small little CG trailer. Now, I kind of started talking about it a little bit earlier, but we're going to take a look at Konami, as it seems like Konami and Sony might have a deal in the works for a trio of games. We already know about one of the titles. Silent Hill 2 Remake is coming later this year, potentially early next year at the worst. Well, one of the ones that we're taking a look at is Castlevania, as it seems like there might be a remake, or at the very least, a new Castlevania title. I guess the real question is, do you prefer a remake or do you prefer a brand new title or a sequel? Now, I'll be completely honest here, I haven't really played the Castlevania games, and I don't know how I feel about this announcement. I think this might be the one that I actually jump in and try to give it a chance. But I know there's a lot of Castlevania fans out there, and I know the last Castlevania game came out 2014, I believe. So it's been almost a decade since the last release. But I'll be completely honest, I'm intrigued. I probably will give a Castlevania game a chance if they decide to come out with a new title or a remake. I know there's been a lot of talks about if this is gonna be a remake or a sequel. Specifically, it seems like a lot of people want a remake of Symphony of the Night. Apparently that's like the best Castlevania game in the franchise. And honestly, it does make sense for what Sony has been doing. When you take a look at Silent Hill 2 Remake, they decided to remake Silent Hill 2 specifically. They skipped Silent Hill 1 altogether, mainly because they know Silent Hill 2 is probably the most popular in the franchise. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore Silent Hill 1, but I had no problem admitting that Silent Hill 2 is just overly more popular than any other Silent Hill video game. And maybe that's the deal that Sony struck with Konami, so they said, hey, give me your best game in each of these three franchises so I can remake these and make you money, and you just collect a check. You don't even have to do much work on these games. You just collect the paycheck. And honestly, I can see Konami be like, all right, let's do it. So I think it is very possible that we could get a Symphony of the Night remake. I think it's also possible we can just get a brand new Castlevania title. Of the trio of Konami titles that's apparently rumored to have a deal with Sony, this is probably the least likely one to be legit. Obviously, Silent Hill 2 Remake has already been confirmed, And the next title we'll talk about in just a little bit, but the next title has a lot of, and I mean a lot of supporters in terms of reliable sources. This one, the Castlevania one, seems to be the one that people aren't 100% sure about, and it's more of a maybe than an absolute thing that's actually gonna happen. But we'll see what happens. Let me know in the comments, do you prefer a Castlevania remake for like Symphony of the Night? Or do you prefer a brand new Castlevania title, like a completely different game or sequel to the mainline story? And let's continue on the Konami train, as we're going to talk about probably one of the biggest announcements that I think is for sure happening at this PlayStation Showcase, and that's going to be a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. According to these sources, Sony and Konami has a deal for a trio of Konami's games. This includes Silent Hill 2, a Castlevania remake or sequel, and finally, a Metal Gear Solid title, and it seems like it's leaning towards a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Now, personally, I've never really played the Metal Gear Solid games. I think I played the second one, Sons of Liberty, when I was really young. I don't remember much of it, except for I remember a vampire-like character. And it's funny, because that's like the only one I've ever played, and I don't think Solid Snake was a main character in that game. But I've always been interested in joining into the Metal Gear Solid lore. I really wanted to give Metal Gear Solid a chance, but with just so many games and apparently the lore being so extensive, I just didn't know where to start, and I just didn't know if I wanted to jump into it. So what I really wanted to see was a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake, and while that is still rumored to be a thing, it seems like they're leaning more towards a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, which again, like I mentioned earlier, falls in line with what Sony has been trying to do lately. We see it with Silent Hill 2 remake, we see it with a potential Castlevania Symphony of the Night remake. It does make sense for Sony to be like, hey Konami, we want your most popular game and we want to remake that one regardless of the numbered entry it is. And Metal Gear Solid 3 seems to be the most popular video game in the MGS franchise. So it wouldn't surprise me that's going to be Metal Gear Solid 3, and apparently this game actually takes place first. In terms of the timeline, it just kind of spoils some things for Metal Gear Solid 2 apparently. But yeah, this does fall in line with what Sony wants to do, so it does make sense, and I'm pretty sure this is definitely going to happen. But let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think they should have did a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake first? Or do you think this makes sense? Do you think it makes sense to just go for the most popular title in the franchise first and go there? But that does it for pretty much all the bigger news for the rumors and reliable sources as to what's going to be announced at this PlayStation Showcase. There's a lot of things I would really like to see. I'm really excited for this showcase because again, this is supposed to showcase phase 2 of the PlayStation 5. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to bring out. It seems like it's going to be the biggest PlayStation Showcase ever, so I expect some crazy announcements at this event. Maybe I'll do a prize for the bingo winner. Maybe we'll do a bingo event. Let me know in the comments if that's something you guys would be interested in. And also, one last thing I kind of want to talk about is what would be my dream announcement at this event. What would be like an impossible, completely out of the ballpark announcement that we could see at this PlayStation Showcase? And for me, the thing I want to see the most that is completely out there, I'll give you two. One, I would love to see a classic Resident Evil trilogy announced. Definitely probably not going to happen, so don't get your hopes up, guys. But I personally would really like to see that. And I think the other thing I would like to see is Kingdom Hearts 4. More news on that. Again, not something I'm expecting to see at this event. But hey, those are some pipe dreams for me. Let me know in the comments, what game are you guys most excited for that is probably going to get announced at the showcase? And then what completely off the walls, out of the ballpark announcement do you want to happen at the showcase, but is probably not likely to happen? Let me know in the comments, guys. Hit the like button if you really like this video. Share this video with your friends and family. And as always, I'll see you on the next Nerd Space. Take care.